So when I talk to my clients who are buying a new home in Calgary, if they have kids, inevitably the first thing that they're going to be wondering about is how to pick a school or schools for their kids. So the first thing to know is the school boards in Calgary. The two main ones, we have the public school board and we have the separate school board, which for all intents and purposes is the Catholic school board. We also have private schools, numerous private schools throughout the city, charter schools, we have a sports school for developing athletes, and then you also have to consider languages like French immersion and other language immersions that you can find throughout any of those styles of schools. Every home in the city is going to have a designated school for kindergarten through grade 6, grade 7 through grade 9, and then grade 10 through grade 12. There are some variations in there with what different schools offer, but for the most part, that's what you're going to find. And what you need to recognize is that each school feeds up to the next one. So that school that's listed for kindergarten grade 1, ultimately those kids are going to feed into that school for grade 10 to grade 12. So it's important to choose a school with strong rankings, with good admissions, and then to also consider the feeder schools as your children go up, including how far away they are. My recommendation is that you look at all three phases along in terms of the schools, but you focus on the one that your kids need right now. So when you're considering high schools, it's important to consider the location of the high school as well and their transportation policies. Know that most high schools offer Calgary Transit bus routes that both serve the feeder areas, as well as some of them even offer bus routes outside of the feeder areas. And those are typically the high schools that might offer programs like International Baccalaureate or some kind of special sports program, so that students who desire to get into those have options even when they're outside the designated feeder area. So we also want to consider private schools. So private schools, there's three kind of hotspots for private schools throughout the city. The Upper West Side has a number almost on the west end of the city limits. The inner city, right around Curry Barracks, Altador area has a couple. And then there's a few within a few minutes radius of each other in the northeast, with other private schools interspersed throughout. The key thing to think about with private schools is every one of these is going to have its own admissions criteria. It's going to have its own policies, procedures, specialties that they offer. And really important if you're looking to buy a home around those areas to, one, make sure that you've confirmed with the school availability and admissions, and two, what the availability of the homes are going to be around there. So how do you find the right schools or the higher ranked schools? Most parents lean to something called the Fraser Institute rankings. The link is going to be below the video here, but the Fraser Institute rankings will give you a ranking of how your public school ranks or your separate school ranks versus all of the others based on a number of factors. My recommendation is to take a look at how all three schools rank, but again, key on your home for the one that your children are in. Another thing to consider, especially for new developing communities, is to look at the schools' policies on admissions, because a number of newer communities have so many kids that are looking to get into that one elementary school that even if there is an elementary school there, a lot of kids are bused out of the community to a community 2 or 3 away. Say you're buying a nice home in Auburn Bay that you're going to raise your kids in, and then you find out that your kids have to bus to school in Sundance 20-25 minutes away, which isn't the best thing to do for a kid in grade 1 or grade 2. And not the best thing for mom and dad to worry about. So to combine all that with a practical example, my family recently moved about a year ago. My son just started kindergarten this year. So when we were making our move, schools were the number one thing for my 2 kids. And we took 3 communities and we focused on Woodbine, Oak Ridge, and Lakeview. And when we looked at Oak Ridge, which was a very desirable community to us, we realized that we likely weren't going to be able to get our son admitted into Louis Riel just based on what the other kids were doing and that sort of thing. So we put Oak Ridge to the back burner. Lakeview, Jenny Elliott, a very highly rated elementary school. Also, just we couldn't find the homes to make that one work. And so we ended up looking at Woodbine. We found the right home. We found that it's a highly rated school, and we found a home that was close by, which made that work. We also considered the feeder schools above. Henry Wisewood's the high school that gets there. It has the International Baccalaureate program, which we hope our kids will be smart enough to get into, and also has good transportation from the community to get there, and relatively close by, that it seemed like a win-win for everybody involved. So buying a home can be a stressful process in even the most simple of times, let alone when you're trying to plan your children's education and couple that so that it works in with buying a home. It can become very, very stressful. I am here to help out in that process. My contact information is below. I'm always happy to help if you have questions about a school board, a transportation route, or just finding the home that works for your children once that school is picked. We covered a lot of material in this video. The Fraser Institute rankings, that link is below. There's a Find a School feature that both the Calgary Public School Board and separate school boards offer. You can enter the address of any home and it will tell you the 3 feeder schools. Those links are below as well. If you like this video, click like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next week for the next Calgary Real Estate video.